Good evening. I'm David Atkins, and this is Eye on the Issues. America is currently facing our worst economy since the Great Depression. The impact of the downturn has been broad and deep, and no sector has gone unscathed. Unlike the usual ups and downs of the business cycle, this economic crisis has discernible and identifiable causes. It is essential that we understand its origins so that we can determine the appropriate solutions and avoid a crisis of this magnitude in the future. Here to help sort through the causes of this downturn are Raymond Freeman, who will be presenting, and Richard Gunther, my co-host this evening. Richard Gunther received his BA in Economics from USC, has an MA and PhD in Operations Management, and his PhD minor fields were in Socio-Technical Systems and in Economics. He joined the faculty at CSUN in 1970 and has taught numerous business and economics courses. Raymond Freeman should be a very familiar name to you if you read the Star, the Daily News, or the LA Times opinion pages. He is an avid letter writer, having had over 70 letters and articles published in these publications, as well as in Time and Newsweek. Mr. Freeman has a master's in business economics and was a successful attorney with Lord Evans Law Firm in England before moving to the United States to be with his American wife, who was homesick. Since then, Ray has been a real estate banker, now with Hanmi Bank in Los Angeles. With his economics, legal, real estate, and banking background, combined with his famous Liverpool wit, he is ideally suited to explain these issues. Ray, welcome to Eye on the Issues.
David, thank you very much for that gracious introduction.
So to begin with, Ray, can you please explain to us how we got into this mess?
Well, it's a very complicated story. Our topic tonight is huge. We are talking about the almost virtual collapse of the world's economic system, the global economy on which we all depend. The cost to fix this fiasco has far exceeded the total cost of World War II of all belligerents combined. But right away we run into a problem. On the one hand, the problem is so vast, so serious, so immense, so far-reaching. But yet on the other hand, it's also vague, so nebulous, so distant, so remote. Very few people in truth understand the reasons. Our presentation tonight is designed for the average citizen like you to understand these complex issues. Now, I'm going to give you a very quick overview, and most of it you will know already. In 2007, we had the subprime mortgage crisis. This seemed to involve Countrywide and Ameriquest, but it seemed to blow over somehow. It seemed to be one of those things, but it didn't blow over. It came roaring back. In August, September 2008, people were lining up outside banks trying to get their money back. We saw the greatest banking failure in world history. That was Washington Mutual. It spread to Wall Street. Bear Stearns, Merrill Lynch, Lehman Brothers fell like dominoes. It didn't stop at Wall Street. It went on and devoured AIG, the world's biggest, largest insurance company. It didn't stop there. Then it ravaged Detroit because people couldn't get car loans. In short, we're now in a full-blown recession. Now, it seems to have something to do with derivatives. We're going to talk about derivatives. These derivatives morphed over into toxic assets. We heard talk of insolvent banks, and the whole thing got very scary. These derivatives, I might tell you, in addition to the damage they have caused, are not small beer. The derivatives that we'll be talking about tonight are approximately $120, $130 trillion. These numbers are meaningless, I know, but let me give you some perspective. The amount of money in the world economy, cash, banknotes, coin, all of that, is only $13 trillion. The global economy itself is approximately $55 trillion. If you measure the output economically of every country, add it all up, you get about $55 trillion. I'm telling you that the problem is twice the size of the global economy. So we might reasonably ask ourselves, what's a derivative? Good question. About 5 weeks ago, the Financial Times had an article. Daddy, what's a derivative? And it started out with the words, admit it, you don't know. Now, this is the readers of the Financial Times. If you don't know what a derivative is, don't feel bad. You're in plenty of good company. Well, gather round, boys and girls, because tonight Daddy will explain what a derivative is. Now, we're going to start with a fairy story. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there were things called mortgages. I've got some parchment documents here, 1866, 1874. Now, to get one of these mortgages, you really had to dress up in your Sunday best and go and beg for one. And if you were lucky, you got one. You got money and you could buy your house. But now let's focus on things not from your point of view, but from the banker's point of view. The banker now has an asset, not a toxic asset, pretty decent asset. Because what happens with this asset, if he owns this asset, once a month he gets checks. You know how you pay your mortgage. The banker gets checks. So he'd put the mortgage into the vault with a great big plop. He'd repeat it. Another mortgage, another stream of checks, another great big plop. This process continued. The mortgages in the vault piled up. But guess what happened? The money in the vault went down. The bank ran out of money. I kid you not. In the 1800s, banks used to routinely run out of money. But this didn't seem to happen in London. Well, the king had said, when banks were running out of money, there shalt be ye secondary market. And there was a secondary market in London. People here said, why can't we have a secondary market? Well, let me introduce you to this country's secondary market. Let's fast forward from the 1860s to the 1960s. Yes, the days of the Fab Four. In the middle of this setup here, we've got Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae was set up by the government. This was in the days when I'm from the government and I'm here to help was not a joke. What happened? Fannie Mae bought mortgages from banks. Now you might think, how does that work? Well, it's dead easy. Remember at the front end, when people got their mortgage, they really promised that they'd trade a stream of checks for, let's call it, a bag of gold. So this was third income. You had all these checks. They were roughly worth the mortgage advance they got. Well, you can equally do it on the back end. As a banker, you could take your mortgage to Fannie Mae and say, look, here's my mortgage. Here's all the checks I'll be getting from it. Can I please have a bag of gold? Can I please have capital? And this was done. And so can you see from this picture how money flowed back to the banks from Fannie Mae? So let's just repeat that. The banks lend money, and to stop themselves running out of money, they flog their mortgages to Fannie Mae, the Federal National Mortgage Association. So you have a sort of a cycle of money going on here.